Welcome to the Your Desired Success Foundation Mastermind. And we are about paying it forward with the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have done unto you. So when Napoleon Hill, who's the author of the world famous book, Think and Grow Rich, as well as other books of success, spoke about the power of a mastermind, he said, it is the principle through which you may borrow and use the education, the experience, the influence, and perhaps the capital of other people in carrying out your own plans in life. It is the principle through which you can accomplish in 1 year more than you could accomplish without it in a lifetime if you depended entirely on your own efforts for success. So this is the power of us coming together as a group and sharing our life, business, skills, knowledge, in whatever areas it may be. So we've all got our numbers for going through and setting the foundation of the call. So if you'd like to start there, Maya.
Purpose of the mastermind is to share our value and connect with like-minded people in order to create wealth in all areas of our lives.
We are here to inspire and challenge each other to reach and exceed goals.
Sorry, I've just lost your screen. It's disappeared. I had a message come up and it's dropped out.
Okay.
Don't know where to find it now.
Is there an arrow, a black arrow? You just click on the Zoom tab.
No, I've got. Sorry, maybe you have to jump on without me. I can't find it.
I'll carry on and you go after me, Maya. Each member is committed to their own success as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meeting in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
We are present. There is no multitasking or distractions during meetings.
We are collaborative. We listen without interrupting, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's successes without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open and listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
We are focused, but we also think it's important to have fun during meetings.
Indeed we do. We are real and authentic, and this is a no BS zone.
We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other and the high forces, one mind, one soul, one love.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, each of you, for sharing and taking part in that. It is a very important process at the beginning, especially for people who are new coming on into the community for these mastermind calls. So whilst we're here, and as Donna as you're a new person on the call, let's just say where we're calling in from. We'll keep to the numbers, where we're calling in from, obviously our name, and one goal that you want to be kept accountable for between now and a week from now. So it can be any goal, personal, business, whatever it would be, one goal that you're just going to put out there to the universe on this call that you want to be kept accountable for.
You're starting with me?
Yeah, Maya, go for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to go?
Yeah, we'll stay to the same numbers. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm Maya. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. A goal I want to be held accountable for. I need to finish watching a week-long training so that I can get my business where I want it to be. So I need to watch that before next Tuesday.
Awesome.
Okay. My name is Donna, and I'm also from Atlanta, Georgia. And a goal is I need to just start moving forward in the ideas that I have to bring my business to fruition.
Yeah, wow. And how do you intend to do that, Donna?
Just by starting to either make contacts. I got to start by making contacts. Yeah.
Awesome. Mr. Inman?
Yeah. So I'm Tony Inman from Perth in Western Australia, in the Perth Hills. My goal, I need to complete the next level of the abundance game, which is, for those who don't know, is part of the Noble Goldman website platform.
Yeah, well, awesome. That will all be revealed in regards to what our topic is today, based on our conversation yesterday, Tony. That all of a sudden the light bulb went off this morning. So my name's Martin from Perth, Western Australia, originally from England, like Tony. My one main goal for this week is to actually have Friday as my day connected in nature to recharge, because I'm presenting at a 2-day event for the full 2 days. So I usually chaotic running into it, and then you give a lot when you're speaking for 2 days. So I'm going to make sure that my accountability for this week is to actually have Friday off and relax and just recharge the body, so I can be the best in the best mindset for the event. So thanks for sharing, each and every one of us. Now, today's mastermind topic is around, and I've got it around in here, how to win at the game of life. So this will be, as we just said then, what Tony said about getting himself set up and working through. What I'd love to hear is, when you hear those words, the game of life, what do they represent to you? What does it mean to you? And please remember that this is a non-judgment zone, judgment-free zone. So it doesn't matter what's said, it's totally respected. So when you hear the game of life, what does it actually mean to you? Anybody like to start?
Yeah, I'll start, because I had that's actually, it strikes a real chord with me, because one of my father's favorite expressions, whenever I'd sort of catch up with him, and he's passed a few years ago now, but he would say, "Are you winning, old son?" You know, and it was just, I think it was just a sort of cliched expression from the north. You know, he's from Manchester, but it always struck me that there must be a sense of winning versus losing. You know, if things were going well, if your life was progressing in the direction that you wanted it to, if you were succeeding at the things you set out to succeed, then you were winning. And if you weren't, then, you know, there was a struggle, or you were experiencing a setback. So when I wrote my book a few years ago, If Life's Worth Doing, It's Worth Doing Well, it was based on that philosophy, if you like, of like you were doing life well if you were winning. In other words, if you were making progress.
Yeah, that's a powerful one, Tony, because I remember being asked that as well. Like you say, I don't know if it's just a northern thing in England, but yeah, you're winning. That's cool. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just think, this is Donna. I just think that it's just about you know, once you get knocked down by the blows of life, that you pick yourself back up and just keep moving forward regardless.
Yeah, beautiful. I know Les Brown said that if you get knocked down, make sure you land on your back, because if you can see up, you can get up. That always resonated with me, because I started doing a lot of personal growth stuff around Les Brown when I was going through a lot of stuff where I was challenged in life, and
Yeah.
he really helped me keep getting up. It's that thing of, I think, was it Rocky Balboa said it in one of the Rockies, of doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, you keep getting back up, or something like that. So
Yeah.
I obviously haven't done the quote much good, but yeah, Maya.
I'm still kind of thinking. What I was kind of thinking about before Tony spoke, and not to say that it's changed, but I was thinking about when I think of the game of life now, I think about the rules being, you know, God's laws or universe's laws, you know, whatever you would call them. I call them God's laws. But I think of us playing by those rules and always winning. Like, there's no way to fail playing by, you know, God's laws. There's absolutely no way to fail. So I don't know, that's just what came up just now. I was trying to think about it a little bit more, but I was also trying to concentrate, you know, driving with one hand halfway. It's just a lot going on. I was spending time with my mom before this, so I didn't want to, you know, interrupt her time. So I left right at 9. But that's what I thought of so far.
Yeah, great. But the fortunate thing, Maya, is you're a female, so you can multitask, even though Angie in the community would say,
well.
Even though Angie in the community was saying, no, none of us can multitask, I know that females do it far better than males. So yeah,
yeah, I definitely do.
we're blessed.
And I'm very resourceful. Like the whole cash thing, it's not, it slowed me down a little bit, but I just figured out how to use my fingers differently. So it's like my hand is still working. But yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know I actually broke my collarbone when I was 21 in a motorbike accident, and I was actually still driving, even though my arm was in a collar. I was able to drive, and it wasn't an automatic either. So shouldn't have been, but I did.
Right.
Officer. But the game of life was interesting when it came up for me. And as I said, Tony and I were having a discussion in a slightly different area yesterday. But this morning it came up, and I thought, do we ever really take the time to slow down and think about the game of life? And a lot's been coming up, especially with one of the books we're reading, but we're doing the audio version in the community, is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And quite a lot of that's been coming up around how we live and the devil's control over us based on what is shared in the book, or the audio in this case, rather than the religious beliefs. So this morning, whilst I was listening to chapter 9, which we review on another call after this, quite a few things, and as I said, the game of life came up, and I thought to myself, well, what does that mean to me? And like you just said there, Maya, with the work that I've done and where my belief is right now, it was hard to take myself back to what I thought about it. Well, the thing that came up for me was kind of like Monopoly, the game. So, and I did a bit of research just before I got on, and there's actually a game that was out there called the Game of Life. I don't know if any of you have heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I've never heard of it, and it just said here that the original one by Milton Bradley was the Game of Life, also known simply as Life, is a board game originally created in 1860 by Milton Bradley as the checkered game of life. The game stimulates a person's travels through his or her life from college to retirement, with jobs, marriage, and possibly children along the way. And it just made me think of then, when I read that, I thought, the game of life, my perception of the game of life when I was younger was that by around about 25, I'd be married. I'd have a house. I'd be married. I'd then have children. I'd work till I was 65. I'd then be retired. And then I'd have the grandchildren over. And there's nothing right or wrong with that at all. But that was what I perceived to be the game of life. Like we all lived lived the same game basically. And yet, funnily enough, I got to 25 and I wasn't married. And I didn't have a house. And then 27, I moved to Australia. And in my eyes, especially in reflection, the game of life started again. I went like right back to the beginning when I came to Australia, even though I had certain skills. So the game of life for me changed because all of a sudden I had no family members around. Apart from my old soccer manager from when I was a kid, I had nobody else around me. So I was now playing a game in uncharted territory. I didn't know where I was. And all of a sudden it became that in like when I reflect, I'm here now to create the game in my own way. I'm not here in no way can I be dictated by what my family say I shouldn't be doing, or what friends, or what I've done to that point. And I know that, I think it was Jim Rohn had said, the people who are most, it might have been Darren Hardy, the people who are most successful in life, usually who go on to achieve great things, are the people who move to a brand new location and start fresh where nobody knows them. Nobody knows their past. It's who they are in that present moment. So the game of life, when I reflected, was that it was about just, I don't know if conspiring is the right word, but just following the sheep or the herd, if you will, by going through what we're led to believe is the fairy tale lifestyle or fairy tale life. But I think when, like, with going back to what Maya just said then, when you do quite a lot of personal growth and you listen to different people, all of a sudden you start to realize that, you know, if you get to 65, it's often not the golden years as it's been proclaimed to be. And it can be a struggle for a lot of people. So
I'll let you know soon, Martin. Well, in about 5 years anyway.
Yeah, well, I've got 25 years. I'm 25 years away, but I certainly look at it and go, you know, what am I going to do at this moment in time? And I totally agree with, and not that I disagree with anybody else, but I totally agree with where I'm at right now, especially over the last couple of months, Maya, that the game of life has now become, how am I learning and actioning the universal laws? Like, that has literally been, it's been slapping me so hard. And yet for the past 5 years, I've been hearing the message. How crazy is that? For the past 5 years, I've been hearing that message and I never actioned on any of it.
At least you've realized it younger than me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great age. I mean, I'm 40, in a couple of months, but it's a great age to do it. But at the same time, my mum, who's just turned 66 a couple of months ago, she won't mind me saying that. She's accessing all of this and she's blown away. And we can have that point of, oh, I wish I had known this earlier. But at the same time, we know it now. So what are we going to do about it?
And you learn it at the right time that you're ready to learn it too.
Yeah.
So I'll just pick up on something that you started with there, because I thought that was brilliant. Because like you, I moved country. I emigrated to Australia from Jersey and the Channel Islands. So I went from a really tiny island to a massive island. But the point about that was that you, instead of adapting to adapting to your environment, which is what you would traditionally do, you just follow the plan as your family, and in the book that he talks about, that you were referring to, that the church or the school is teaching you how you should adapt to life. When you emigrate, you make life adapt to you. You define how you want it to be and on your terms, and then you go for it. So I thought that was a great point, because it doesn't mean that everyone has to emigrate or move somewhere else, but it's about thinking about how you want your life to go rather than just drifting, I suppose. Following Napoleon Hill's language, he talks about us just drifting and following along with the status quo. Now, we all have the ability to choose and create what we want and how we want it. That's the game of life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you guys have said so much. And I, unlike Tony, I didn't write down the good points that I heard. But what I can remember I wanted to say was, I heard recently somebody say that, I think man plans, God laughs. I think that's how it goes. And I thought about recently in my calendar, this is very, very personal, but I'm going to tell y'all. I've been telling everybody because it's really funny to me. So there was a alarm that went off in around, maybe it was August, in my phone, and it was titled, or it was it was the alarm for me to start making babies, right? So this is the alarm that I put in my phone at 19, I don't know what age, I don't know. But I said, honey, what were you thinking about? And it was just so funny to me how I, had this whole vision, like Martin was saying, 25 and married and all these things when I was, younger, and, coming into this material and really learning, how life works and how all of this is really, nothing's by chance. It's just interesting to just piece it all together, like how my mindset has changed. And even with the moving piece, I'm moving to Denver, right? So that whole, you guys just saying that, I'm like, okay, that makes, it makes me feel, not like I felt bad about the move, but it makes me feel a lot better. Like, okay, now I have another perspective, to look at it as a different opportunity. So I'm just always grateful for these calls. I'll just say that. I don't remember what else I was going to say because there's so much, but that's enough.
Well done.
Yeah, it's always perfect, Maya, and it's that thing of there's no coincidences. We're all supposed to be where we're supposed to be, and even as the four of us coming on this call, and anybody else who's engaging as well, that it's amazing how connected we really are. and the conversations, the people I've been meeting. I know I was talking to somebody that just I connected with through Facebook, and this person just couldn't believe how alike our adventures had been to this point. But yeah, there's no coincidences. We're here for whatever reasons, and it's not that I'm better than anybody else or anybody else is better than me. We're all equal, just vibrating at different levels. We've maybe had the same or similar kind of experiences or different experiences, and we bring that to the table. And often what I find on these calls is that in some cases, when people have been talking, I've not felt there's anything in my past or maybe even in my present right now that I've been able to relate to. Then all of a sudden, a week or two later, I've had a conversation with somebody, and what I learned from that person in that moment, I was able to share with somebody else. And that in itself is a gift. Like just choosing to show up, and it's that thing of when you choose to show up, you'll get what you need. It's not what you want in many cases, you'll get what you need. And that, I think there's a song. There was a song that we were listening to. So on another note, a guy that I've connected to on Facebook last year sometime, unfortunately, he's very soon to pass with cancer, and he's shared, him and his wife have shared the whole journey on Facebook. And the deterioration is just, it's heartbreaking. But at the same time, he used to be in a band, and one of his friends, he's in America, one of his friends flew in, and they did the song that they always finished with on a set. And he couldn't sing much, the guy that's in his bed that's going through the cancer journey. But his friend finished it, and it was so emotional. I mean, from the moment they started, it just tears were pouring. And the song was the Rolling Stones of I think the title is "You Get What You Need."
Yeah.
And it was in that moment of listening to the words, I got so much clarity in regards to what's been happening around in my life and in my past. Watching this guy who's soon to pass, and he's absolutely fine with it, and he's going through the motions. I mean, obviously it's still emotional, but what an absolute blessing to be able to witness that experience with him, but also in that moment, and the love and the bond and the tears and the raw emotion, like the real stuff, the stuff that we're here to experience, was just incredible. So I got a lot from that of really understanding that we get what we need. So yeah, just that like you said with where you went there, Maya, is in you value these calls. I 100% resonate with that.
Can I just share a couple of things there about my parents and the journey that they had at the end that just relates to what you were saying. With my father, he passed away when he was 90, but he had a bad fall when he was 88. He was down south in Busselton, and he had to be flown back to Perth by the flying doctor. And he'd fallen in head first into an entertainment unit and smashed his face up. And he was in ICU, and they thought that the nurses and doctors told us, be prepared for the fact that he won't last the weekend. So that was at 88, and he carried on in and out of hospitals and then nursing homes, and had a few more falls, but he hung on in there for at various times we were told that he was not going to make it, but he had such a survival instinct and a determination to come through. I mean, this is a guy who'd been through the war, living on Malta in the Air Force when the Germans were dropping bombs on it all round the clock. Survived meningitis, survived polio, which back then were both quite critical illnesses, and had one hell of a life, and had that really strong determination to survive. And I remember sitting with him in a hospital where he was really ill. He was in a chronically bad state, and I was actually having to hand feed him. And I'm thinking, it's gone round full circle from being fed as a child to now feeding the parent. And I had this conversation with him, and it was 6 months before their 70th wedding anniversary. And I said to him, you've got to hang in there for, Mum needs you for that anniversary. It's really important. And he made a recovery, came out of the hospital again, ended up back in a nursing home, but was there for their 70th wedding anniversary, and then another few months later for his 90th birthday. And then after he got to that milestone, then he went, okay, I'm out of here now. And 3 weeks later, he was gone. But it showed to me the power of the human mind when you've got a definite purpose and a definite goal. And especially when, you know, other people are reliant upon you for you to come through from that. And then the other thing was that my mother, who died about a year ago, she'd lived to age 100. And the same sort of thing, sitting in the hospital with her, where she'd been sent up to a hospice. So she knew she'd got cancer, and they said it's inoperable, and she knew pretty much she didn't have much longer. So she had her 100th birthday in the April, and then pretty soon after deteriorated rapidly, and a month later she was gone. But in that last week or two, I was sitting with her in the hospital, and she was so philosophical about it all. Like, you know, if they can fix me, that's great. But if they can't, I'd rather be out of here because I don't want to be a burden, you know. And her summary of it all was just, I've had a great life. You know, I've been surrounded by my kids. I've done everything I wanted to do. And it was just that sense of calmness and tranquility and acceptance that, you know, she'd led a life of purpose and achieved everything she wanted to achieve. So I thought that those were two really good, sort of almost contrasting but very similar examples of how people can, you know, when you get clarity about what's important to you in your life and what you want to achieve, there is a real drive and determination that comes with that. And then, you know, once you've got there, there's a real peace as well, and knowing that you've done the right thing the best you could. So yeah, hopefully that was some help to somebody.
Oh, it's always perfect, Tony, and we always get a lot of value when you share as well. So thank you. And
I don't want to sort of hog the call, but there's something else I just felt I needed to go back to that you'd brought up, and that was when we move, when we change location, we're going outside of our comfort zone, and that's where we find the gold. Is when we step outside our comfort zone, we challenge ourselves by default. You know, it just comes with the territory. So suddenly you're going to be in a heightened state of awareness, of wanting to learn new things, of wanting to make new friendships, of wanting to create, to some extent, what you might have left behind, but you're trying to recreate it, but it's different. It's a whole new ball game. And you've gone, and I know in my case, I went from being a big fish in a little pond to a little fish in a massive pond. And, you know, where suddenly you had, I'd done well in my career. I had acknowledgements, I had recognition. I knew I was on a track to senior management. And suddenly I'm starting again at the bottom, and I'm a nobody in the game. And that's a real kick up the backside to have to go, well, I've got to prove myself all over again. So again, I thought that was an interesting add-on to the concept of why it's important to move and challenge yourself to do different things.
yeah, absolutely. And Donna and Maya in particular, if anything's coming up you want to share, you're more than welcome to. But I can totally relate to that, Tony. And it's funny that the power. Oh, sorry, Donna.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I totally agree with what Tony was saying, especially in regards to his mother, because I went through that. My mother actually made it. She didn't have as long as a life as yours, but she made it to like her 69th birthday. But the resiliency was still yet there. But then, you know, 2 weeks later, after she made it, she was gone. So I understand that. And then in regards to the moving, yeah, I've been through that, to where you just pick up just like everybody else and just start all over. And don't know anybody, don't know what's going on, nothing. You're just there trying to figure something out. You're driving around, getting lost, trying to find out your way and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of agree. It makes you stronger, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Great share, Donna. And once again, that power of that connection. Yeah, there's been quite a few things that have been coming up with regards to what's being shared there, and it's funny around the mindset that it takes, where we could, if we look at the scenario, and especially with Maya, with you moving to Denver, I think you said you could easily arrive. And how old were you when you moved over here, Tony?
Well, good question. How old was I?
Come on, you're not 65 yet. You're not senile. Come on.
Hang on, 85. Oh, so I was 24.
24.
24, yeah.
Yeah. So I was 27 when I came. Oh, and I think we can look. I left a fairly successful business. I had a big network in regards to what I was doing. I had my own business, and to come here without, I came over on a holiday after I'd applied for residency for a week, but I didn't really know anyone, didn't know anything about it, didn't have a job. And it's that thing of when you arrive, what's the mindset like? Is the mindset of, oh, is this going to work? I don't know if I'm going to be able to succeed here. Should I go back? Should I actually not have put all my eggs in one basket? And there's a famous event that happened, and I can't remember where it was. Tony might know more, or somebody else on the call might know more. But they arrived on the shores and they burnt the boats.
Oh, the Vikings used to do that.
Yeah, we're here. We have no choice but to win. So they burned the boats.
Actually, I think it was the most famous version of it was William the Conqueror going to England. That the French burnt their boats so that they would have to defeat the English.
Yeah. I know that Tony Robbins talks about it, and Jim Rohn spoke about it, and I think it's even mentioned in Think and Grow Rich in the audio in particular, and most definitely in the book. So, and it was that thing of, and I hadn't heard any of that, and I'd never been told anything like that, but it was that thing of when I packed up and left, I sold whatever I needed to sell, and I brought everything over. And people were like, you're crazy. You're crazy. What happens if it doesn't work? And my attitude was, well, if I'll give it 2 years. And if I really don't feel like I'm supposed to be there, I'll come back. But if I go over there and leave half my stuff here, I'm always going to have an attachment to going, I can leave whenever I want. I'm not committing to it. So even within the first 2 weeks, I knew I was not going to leave. I just knew. And one of the big reasons why I knew was because I went for a walk with my soccer manager's wife. She took me out around the area and we walked along with one of the beaches, and it was just amazing. And I'm from where we used to live. The beach was 5 minutes away, but the water's grey and murky, and you'd walk with your trainers on the sand. You wouldn't want to walk barefoot. But anyway, maybe that's a judgment now on what I've got. But the point being was that, and then when I walked to the end of the pier, there was 2 dolphins swam past. Now, I had never seen that. So I was like, wow, this place is amazing. And I really felt connected to it. But the point being was that I chose to come here with the mindset of, I am going to make this work. I'm 27. I've got all that skill set behind me, all that knowledge base. And the only person who's not going to make this work is myself. And I was already thinking like that. And I hadn't even been introduced to anything in that personal development space until, that was 2009, until 2012, 13. So, but I was still in that mindset and still driven. And this is what Tony had said yesterday, the drive that I have, which I look at my mum and dad, I got from them, because they just kept working hard to keep the roof over our heads and food on the table and clothes on our back. And we didn't really have much. But I just saw them grind and work hard. So naturally, that's what I thought I was, which then is the game of life. The game of life is you only succeed if you work your butt off so hard. And then when you get to 65, you can sit back in your rocking chair and go, I can now try and get some energy back. But that isn't what it's come to be. It's that thing of, well, why should we get to work so hard like that? Why can't we have it all now? And that's really where the universal laws in particular come in. And one of the things that was said, if you bear with me a moment, I'll actually bring it up because I was just writing the notes. If somebody's got something else to say, please feel free while I find this note.
All right, yeah, I'll just add something onto that, because I thought it was very significant when you said I'll give it 2 years, because I when I came out, my life was about to go through a massive change anyway, because my wife was actually 4 months pregnant when we emigrated. This was my first wife. And so our big goal was to get a home, to be able to buy a house in which to raise a family. So that was very much a plan of the game of life. The house prices in Jersey where we had been were really expensive, and we didn't really see a chance for a future. You know, we'd be struggling our whole lives there, whereas we knew there was a lot more opportunity in Perth and Western Australia. So we came out, and obviously she was pregnant, so she couldn't work. And then, you know, a few months later, we had a little one. Well, within a year, we got our house because we had that goal. But I felt at that point a massive pressure, because suddenly we'd gone away from all our family, from all our network of friends. We had a baby that's dependent on us. I suddenly had a mortgage to pay as well. I felt a huge pressure with all of that. But it's testing yourself. Well, then we got to, I don't know if you guys will remember this, but October 87 was a massive stock market crash around the world. It was, I think it was Black Friday, wasn't it? They talked about. So we got to the point where our mortgage interest rate went up to 18%. Yeah. And so I was working a second job. I was getting paid monthly, and by the third week of the month, there was no money left, and I was going out shopping, you know, having to add up the value of the shopping in my head and put things back on the shelf. You know, do we really need this? Can we, you know, that challenge was huge, and it put a huge strain on us. And at that point, I was so rocked by it all that I almost went back to Jersey, because this was, you know, just huge financial pressure. And I went as far as phoning my old boss back where I'd come from. And yep, if you're coming back, of course, we want to re-employ you. You know, you definitely got a job to come back to. I got my house valued. I got removals costs researched. Went through the whole process of being ready to move back. And then I stopped myself, because I went, if you don't see this through and give it another couple of years, and it was literally, I'm going to give this 2 years. And if it still doesn't work out, or I'm still not happy, then we'll go back. But if I go back now, I'll feel like I've failed. Even I wouldn't have failed. It would have been possibly the right move to do because of financial pressures and so on. But I just felt I needed to stick with my definite purpose, which was to make my new life in this new country for me and for my family. And I stuck with it. And then, you know, I'm still here. That was 1987. And, you know, so it's a long time ago. But yeah, so that you do get tested. I think that's another big thing about the university, or the game of life, the university of life, is you're always being tested. There's always going to be, particularly when you set a really big goal, it's almost like the next day the universe goes, are you serious? Here you go. Here's some curveballs to see if you're actually serious or not. Let's just throw some stuff at you and see whether you're really serious. You know, you decide to go on a diet. The next day someone turns up and goes, oh, I've made you this chocolate cake. You know, it's that kind of thing.
Oh, and I often say I don't have one sweet tooth. I have about 20 of them. So it's a nightmare when somebody comes to me with anything sweet. Yeah. Especially when I'm going down that road of thinking around the health side. But at the same time, that's part of the living and experience and playing the game, isn't it? And going through and understanding what the results are of the game, and knowing that, well, if I've been doing this, for every action there's a reaction, and therefore we've got that result. And it's been interesting how I know that when I used to be a personal trainer and I was working with Tony and his wife Jo, I would often use my body as the testing facility to consume different things and see how I reacted, because that way I could then have a level of relation to what I was advising to people of what they were experiencing. So I always did my best to be ahead, and that's one of the things that I've always aimed to implement into business stuff. Don't expect somebody to do something that you haven't got some level of idea based on. You've already gone down that road and done it to an element. So I know that, like, I can edit videos, but I'm self-taught. But if I sat next to a video editor, I know I'll be blown away. And the video editor would probably be pulling her or his hair out watching me. But at the same time, it's a task I can do. And I know that it takes me a while, but I can also respect that if I give them this task to go and video edit it, I know exactly what they're going to be going through. They'll probably do it faster than me, but I know to give them that space and give them that time and what kind of content they would need to help them. And that has always been an important part for me to make sure I'm connecting with them. And that then for me is understanding that part of the game, like in that area. So one of the other questions that I came up with before was, out of those who are on this right now, cake is a love language we've got from Tara. Oh, I'm just going to say it. I love cake. So thanks for giving me the approval there, Tara. So with the four of us here and those who are on the call, I'd love to know, and this one might be a deep question where you've got to think about this, but do you feel that you're playing the game, or do you feel that the game is playing you?
You know, I flip-flop on that one sometimes. Sometimes, yes, I'm playing the game of life. And sometimes life is actually trying to play me. So, yeah, it's definitely a two-way street, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
absolutely.
on, let's hear from you.
From me or Maya?
I'm thinking Maya, because you and I have hogged the call quite a lot, so we need to hear from the
Great
ladies.
share though, Donna. Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's whilst Maya's thinking, because we can see she's in deep thought and those codes are I totally agree, Donna, and I know that it's kind of like the pendulum. It's always going to be swinging from one side to the other. So yeah, I know that as we get older and we learn from our experiences, we're then able to make better decisions based on those experiences for the results that we've got. And that thing of constantly learning, and you know, when people say to me, I don't know how to do it, I can't do it, and I'm like, well, you know what, when you were born, you didn't know how to walk. You figured that out. You didn't know how to feed yourself. You didn't know how to read. You didn't know how to write. You didn't know how to communicate. You didn't know how to go to work. You didn't know how to do your profession, whatever it is. Every single part of it, you didn't know at some point, but you've learned. So let's stop putting those barriers up in front. But it's interesting because then, in my opinion, at that point when we say we can't, we're being played.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, once you release that, then it's like, your mind goes into that shift of maybe, instead of yes, I can, yes, I can, yes, I can.
Yeah. Come on, Maya, you look like you're listening to a dance track or something.
I do agree with you both. You know, honestly, I was thinking about before I actually got into this information and actually knowing how, you know, life works and how the world works and all of that, I was unconsciously, you know, doing things in the right way, you know, like playing the game of life correctly, just unconsciously, just from living, you know, from those experiences. But I feel like once I was aware of, okay, there's an actual way that you've been doing it, that you can do it to get to your, you know, where you want to go. I feel like now me trying to play the game of life, life is playing me. I feel like now I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do everything, you know, how I know I should. And it's that force, I think, is negating. So I think now it's coming back. I mean, I'm like, whoa, hold on, life. I thought we were cool. Seems like we're having a little bit of a challenge here in our relationship. But I think I like the awareness. I wouldn't trade the awareness for anything, of course. But I think it's just interesting now to be able to know, you know, how life works and to be able to grow into doing everything how I want to do it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm on the pendulum as well, just going back and forth with it.
You know, that's telling me is that you're getting ready for some bigger challenges.
Oh yeah.
If you've had that, you were sort of coasting along and achieving unconsciously,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've become aware, and now you're getting some challenges thrown at you, it means you're ready for them. You're ready for bigger challenges.
Tony, sorry to interrupt, but do you want to then touch on this? Because I would say that in that case, mine was at level 4, unconsciously skilled.
Yeah, that's what Bob Proctor calls it, unconscious competence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the world is drifting along in unconscious incompetence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so as you become aware of the different stages, you progress through them. Is that something you've seen before, Donna?
No, I've never seen that before.
Do you want me to bring it back up?
Oh, you can bring it. Yes, please, briefly.
Yeah. Who would like to walk through it for Donna?
Yeah, I'll go through. So level 1, you're unconscious. You're unaware of what you don't know. You're unaware of your incompetence, and then as you start to be shown the better way, you become aware that you're incompetent. So that's level 2. So that's the starting point of being able to learn and do something about it. You know that you don't know, and then at level 3, you start to become skilled, but you have to do it consciously. In other words, you have to follow routines or systems or checklists or whatever to achieve what it is you're setting out to achieve. So you're competent, but you're having to think about it as you do it all the time. And then level 4 is the mastery of something, is where you become unconsciously competent. So you are able to just do it instinctively and naturally without even thinking about it. So if you take an example like learning to drive a car, you can drive a car now once you've been doing it a few years, whilst doing 10 other things at the same time,
Yeah.
thinking about what you're going to make for dinner or whatever. You're not even, whereas when you first drive in a car, you're having or making sure
Right.
it's in the right lane, and I'm not going too fast, and watching out for all the road signals in detail, and you see you're being a lot more attentive to everything, but because you're having to be. Whereas once you've mastered it, you're just in cruise mode. So what Maya was saying really was that she was in cruise mode to start with and achieving things. So I remember on an earlier call where she's going, "Oh yeah, I just I got a job and I passed my degree and I got the car and I got a house," and you're like, "That's an achievement. Those are all achievements." She's just like, "Isn't that just what you do? Doesn't everyone just do that?"
Right.
So now I'm curious to see what huge challenges is she going to be coming up against, because now she's aware that the universe is testing her.
But I like that. The graphic because it reminds me, or it's going to. I think I'll start teaching paradigms, kind of bring it into paradigms a little bit, because it reminds me of how right now I'm trying to form the habit of folding my clothes like as soon as they come out of the washing machine. Like, this is a thing. I don't know. I think I came from my dad and a little bit from my mom, but I would wash the clothes and they will sit for a while. So this is something, right now I'm I'm conscious of how to change it, but I'm still in the process of, I guess, becoming skilled at, I'm conscious of, okay, there is a way to do this. I'm still unskilled in the fact that I haven't, I'm not doing it. And then the conscious and skilled doing it and being conscious of it each time, and, just making sure I'm doing it, and then being able to have it be a part of my paradigm, right? Have it be just a habit that I have. I like that graphic. I'm going to use that somehow.
I think that's great. You had no problem with getting a degree and a job and a car, but you struggle with folding clothes.
I know, it's crazy, right? Like, the plaques on the wall mean nothing because these clothes are on my couch, and they have been. But yeah, it's a part of who I am. I'm changing it though.
That's a really good example of the contradiction between those two things. Any new thing that we go to do that we haven't done before, is a challenge, and then we have to learn, and it could be the most ridiculous thing. So great example of that. My father was a aircraft engineer who used to go off on these courses to learn about a new aircraft that had come in and that he was having to manage, you know. So he'd come up with these manuals that were like this thick, you know, and he had to sign off the aircraft as being safe for a few hundred people to get on and fly, and it was his responsibility to check that plane over before it turned around and was cleared to take off again. And yet at the age of I think it was 81, I taught him how to set up his own Hotmail account on a computer, and he could not get the hang of double clicking the mouse. And I'm going, there's a guy who could fix anything. He could, you know, you could give him a broken washing machine and he'd take it apart and put it back together again and it would be working, but he couldn't double click a mouse. You know, so it's the craziest of things sometimes that can floor us, you know, and we're stepping into an area that we're uncomfortable in, or it's new for us. You just don't know how you're going to react to it.
Yeah, especially when when you watch a child, you know, you just give them a phone or an iPad and they're just it's just magically working for them, and you think, how? And it is amazing to witness that, and yeah, as you said there, Tony, the practical side of it when we get away from this kind of technology. Even when you look at cars, I mean, I played with cars and motorbikes. That was my childhood. So I could strip my motocross bike and rebuild it within something like 25 minutes. It was ridiculous how quick I could do it. But then, you know, a computer and stuff, it can be frustrating, and where to go and then how to change things. But then some of us are just skilled in different areas, or in a way are excited by it and therefore want to go in there. I'd rather be outdoors. I'd rather get my hands dirty and bashing them and all that kind of stuff. I know that when I did some work over at Beth's mum and dad's farm, they were, wear your gloves and wear your safety stuff. And I'm like, don't worry about all that rubbish, because I had so many years without it, and I'd have cuts all over my hands and stuff. But because I was so used to it, I didn't feel it. And then when we were at the farm, I cut my hands a couple of times, not big, but just cuts, and like they were worried about it. I'm going, it's nothing, it's all right. It's because I was just so conditioned to it. But I loved the feeling. You put a glove on, not got the same feeling. It's that touch that then creates the connection to it all, which helped me succeed in those areas. Whereas on a computer, as much as like this is my life now, I still feel a huge disconnect, and I need to go to the farm. I need to work on the car. I need to do these things to just make me feel like, in a way, I'm alive, like alive in the game, if that makes sense. And I know that with, sorry, Tony.
Oh, just going to say, so then that's when you're living in alignment with what you're meant to be or meant to do. You know that's a thing that brings you great joy, but I know you also get joy out of creating a great video, but you wouldn't have done when you first started doing it. You'd have probably experienced a lot of frustration and why can't I get this damn thing to work and do it well.
Well, I used to have blocks like Maya before I started video editing, but now it's all gone. Now, and one of the things that I wanted to touch on, I know we're just coming around to the hour mark, was with that question that I asked, are you playing the game? Would you feel like you're being played? Even though I'm, as I said, with what Donna said, that the pendulum's constantly swinging from side to side, especially as we're learning new things, because if you're playing the game, you're naturally, in my opinion, you're naturally being challenged every day, and you're learning new things, and therefore there's going to be times when you hit hurdles, and we've got to try and figure out the solution around it. So we're going to be swinging into an area of being played slightly, whilst we figure that section out. Well, the biggest thing that I came to realize was, as we mentioned earlier, when Tony mentioned it, was around the abundance game. And I've set goals countless times over the years, since around about, for the last 7 or 8 years, set goals. Well, one of the biggest things was, as we said before, around that unconscious competence. I could set the goal to, it might be a health goal. And because a high value of mine was health, if not my number one value a few years back, I would unconsciously be competent at achieving it because it was just, I was just doing it. I was just in that moment. But quite a few of my goals now, and this is what Les Brown had said years ago, was don't set a goal that you know you will achieve. So it needs to be a goal that's stretching you that you've never achieved before. So for me to go and achieve like a six-pack, I'd achieved it before. So I knew what to do. Now, as great as it is to achieve that goal, I needed to go for something else. Now, one of the things, though, that's important for us helping us achieve those goals is the accountability every day. And for a lot of us, we don't believe that we can keep ourselves accountable. We need somebody else to be checking in. And I recently had a couple of people reach out to me and ask if I'd be accountability partners. And I used to be, in a way, I never needed anybody to go to the gym with me. I could do everything on my own and I was perfectly fine. It's not that I didn't need anybody, but it's just that I had enough confidence in myself to do that. However, when it's things that I haven't achieved before, I now don't know. And am I going to remain on the path? So when Tony had mentioned around the abundance game, and I'm just gonna show you the power of this because it blew my mind. And everybody has access to this. It's free for everybody to come in and access. But I want to show you because Tony's going to be setting his up as well to help him. So what we did here, this is in the Noble Goldman platform, was you set your goals. So for instance, I'll give you an idea. One of my goals for this year, so if I tell you my goals for the end of 2020, it's to have my caravan, my four-wheel drive caravan built and here and all set up. My other goal is have my four-wheel drive all tuned and everything it needs doing set up because my partner and I were going off touring around Australia indefinitely. That's the plan at the end of the year, to just pack up and leave and tour around Australia and experience as much of the land as possible in the years we've got, and then maybe move over to another country and travel around. So that's what we're setting ourselves up for. One of my other goals is to get my health in check in regards to eating better, actually going in exercises instead of staying here in front of the screen, these kind of things. So what we have here is actually, when I click on this, for instance, if I go down to study, so this morning I went through the audio of chapter 9 of Outwitting the Devil and I wrote notes. So if I put that into, let's just say, financial freedom, it's helping my personal growth. It's going to help me achieve and connect with more people. I can put in an hour there. Productivity, I know that I'm going to be working today, but let's just say travel Australia because I've actually got to do some stuff. I can click the 30 minutes. What this is allowing me to do, because I've entered my goals into the system, all my goals in the areas come up here. So physical health, if I was going to the gym today, I could click on that and say the time. What it allows me to do, when I log that activity, it actually comes up in this chart that it's successful, and it highlights the area. Excuse the sound that came through. So I know that I've got study, I've got productivity, so I can track what I'm doing each day and throughout the week. Now, when you think about this, the power of this is the fact that I know where I'm lacking or where I'm growing. Now, some of the days are missing because it might have been the weekend of a times off. I mean, some of you know that my dog passed, so I've not been working religiously the way that I normally would, but this is still actually a good sign that maybe I have forgotten to track it. But at the same time, what I'm able to do is keep accountable for achieving my goals. And why this is important, that I believe it's important, and I know Tony touched on this earlier, is the fact that if our goals are part of us playing the game, then when we are keeping ourselves accountable along this game, or accountable to our goals, we are playing the game, we are winning at the game. When we're not, we're being played because we're being taken in a direction that isn't where we want to go. And all of a sudden, we know that when we're in a GPS, and I know that Maya has spoken quite a bit about Bob because she does a lot of work with Bob. I'm listening to Bob Prox the weekend, and he's saying, it's great to know where you want to go, but you need to know where you are in this moment. Because every GPS goes, okay, that's your destination. Well, I need to know where you are right now to be able to set the pathway to that place that you want to get to. So all the goals come back to, well, here I am. So what do I need to do in this moment in time? Well, for me to get the what I call the rig, my vehicle, ready for traveling, I need to make sure that's in there. So what have I done today to help that happen? I've contacted the guy that needs to do the bar work. I've looked at the lights that need to go around. I've contacted the auto electrician, and I've got these people in place. So the goal is actually being achieved. So come that date on the 27th of December, when it's all set to be achieved, everything is working rather than just floating along and what we call drifting, and then getting to the 27th of December and going, well, hang on, my car's not ready. I've got no caravan. Crikey, I haven't got anything organized to leave. And then comes in the disappointment and what we would class as the failure. Oh, well, if I can't achieve that and all I've got to do is make a few phone calls, what's the point in trying to do anything else? Been played. And nobody likes to be played. We like to have that control. We like to succeed, not at the expense of other people, but the hardest person to win against is the self. Like that. So that's why, for me, I believe that since I've been, in fact, I know, since I've been accessing the abundance game, I've been smashing through my goals because I've been kept accountable. There's been no excuse. I've been able to go in and see where I've actually, and it's not been disempowering. It's been empowering to go, okay, well, I didn't do study yesterday. Why didn't I do that? Oh, well, I did this area instead. Okay, great. Well, let's make study in there because it's one of my values of my personal growth. Being on this call is one of my values because it's personal growth, because I'm learning from everyone and I've got the ability to also share, which helps me grow in that moment.
Can I just ask, have you ever had the experience of getting to, let's say, New Year, you want to set a New Year's resolution to do something, a goal for that year, and found that it's the same goal that you had the year before?
Definitely around health.
Ever experienced that?
Yeah. Because you just not actioned it.
Well, that's the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah. Anything anybody wants to share before we wrap this up?
No, I think that the concept of winning the game is to realize that it's an infinite game. There is well, there's a finiteness about the fact that we have a mortality. So you could look at it, you know, have you achieved everything you want to achieve before you die? Well, the reality of it is probably that there's always new stuff you could want to achieve. So I don't think we could ever say that we've won the game, as in the game is not a finite game. So it's not a game where you win or lose. It's a game where you at any moment can turn a losing situation into a winning situation, because the winning is about progress. So it's always an ongoing game. It's not like the whistle blows and that's it, other than the fact that you die, as I say. But wherever you are in life, you know, like you said, your mother discovered late in life, Martin, all this information, this awakening. You can apply it at any stage. You can apply it at 20. You can apply it if it takes you to 50 to come across this stuff and start realizing it and acting upon it. You can change your whole life from that point onwards. And that's why a lot of the times people that go on to become self-made millionaires have probably gone broke several times along the way before it suddenly all the pieces of the jigsaw come together and they start to realize, hey, I've been doing it wrong all this time. This is what I need to do. And, you know, maybe the third or fourth attempt, they suddenly become a multimillionaire and become an overnight success. I love that expression, because nobody ever becomes an overnight success. They've usually, it's the result of a lot of learning, a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks. And that's the game of life, is just to, like you said at the beginning, keep picking yourself back up like Rocky, have another go, and keep moving forwards.
I clicked on end instead of unmute. Yeah, absolutely, mate. That's, you're spot on. You're spot on with that. And when we look at the power of it, it's just, let's keep going. Let's just go.
I heard a great Kevin Costner quote. He was being interviewed, and he said, you know, when you're lying on your deathbed, it's not the things that you did that you'll regret. It's all the things that you didn't do. You know, it's the music you didn't hear. It's the books you didn't read. It's the adventures you didn't go on. It's all of those things that you were meant to get around to, but never had a plan to do them. So this is what I love about this structure is you know, I've always been a goal setter, and I found when I do that, you've got a much better chance. You know, a Harvard review years and years ago did studies on students, and they proved that conclusively that the ones who wrote down their goals and then took the action upon them had a much greater chance of succeeding them than those people who never took the time to write them down. There's something about that, putting it, expressing it in print, or you know, in ink, or by committing to a team of people that you're going to do something, gives it that definiteness of purpose that Napoleon Hill talks about, and that's what carries you through when things get tough.
Great shares, everyone. It's been a very powerful and empowering call. I know we've got loads of comments as well that have been coming through, so everyone's been enjoying it and being a part of it. Got some really good shares just before I wrap this up as well. So Tara had said, I was based on the question I asked around the maybe being played. She had said, I was being played and it served its purpose, lessons and growth. Now I feel I'm playing, and at the same time have trust that I might be playing, but the universe is wiser than me. So that's a powerful one. And then a bit later on, because the universe is wiser than me, so I'm playing with it and I trust it, knowing that my thoughts are driven by my beliefs. Yeah, great awareness. We've got a few other things. Awareness is the precursor to growth. It's the medicine of truth. Yeah, there's loads of. I need to check out this abundance game. Yeah, there's heaps of value, even with us being on the call and those people who are outside watching from afar and sharing as well, being a part of this whole thing. And this is what it's about, bringing the energy together. So I know for you ladies, Donna and Maya, it's a little bit late there. I think it's 10:15 at night. So I just want to thank you both for choosing to be on the call with us and sharing the value. Look forward to you joining us again. And remember, share your 3 big takeaways in the Your Desired Success Facebook group. And Tony, I'll be seeing you in another 15 minutes, no doubt.
Yeah.
For our review of chapter 9. So go and enjoy the rest of your evening, your day, wherever you are in the world. And I look forward to seeing and speaking to you all again very soon. Bye for now.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, Donna. See you.